If you've been following along with my book blanket series, I'm going to walk you through how I make my granny squares for my book blanket. So as you can see, it's a little bit different than a traditional granny square because I'm going to be hooking into that previous row. So I'm going to show you how to do that while I work on my next granny square for my book blanket. The book we've been reading for my book club is A Ship of Bones and Teeth. Now, I'm going to do my book blanket review in another video, so make sure you watch out for that. But I'm kind of looking at the cover here. I see the titles in the gold, and then it does have like a gradient. Because I only do 5 rows, I'm kind of limited, but I did want to highlight that orangey red part of the cover. So I originally had a red out and it just didn't look right. So I'm going to go with this orange and I think that will look really nice together. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the gold. So for my granny square book blanket, I've been using just a regular acrylic yarn, nothing fancy, just a size 4 weight. And I'm really just using my stash. So whatever I have is what I have, and that's what I've been working with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Now, I am a magic circle user, so I'm going to start my granny squares with a magic circle. If you do not know how to do a magic circle, I do have and want to learn, I do have a video. I'll link that down below, so you can go check that out. Otherwise, if you don't know how to do a magic circle, you can always chain 2. So I'll just show you real quick. You can always chain 2. So 1, 2, and then you're going to be working into that first chain that you made. So you'll just be doing all of your things in that first chain. But I like my centers to be nice and closed, so I'm going to go ahead with my magic circle here. So I do my magic circle a little bit differently than other creators on here. So I'm not wrapping around any of my fingers. So I'm going to start with a chain 3. So here's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to double crochet into my magic circle. 1, 2. Okay, I'm going to do that 2 more times. And so now I have a cluster of 3 double crochets. I always do the extra. I know some people use that chain as their first double crochets in their granny squares. I just have never liked the way that looks. So this is personal preference. You can use that if you normally do your own granny squares, you can start with that chain and keep it to your cluster of 3. But for me, it's going to be just a little bit extra. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. And now I'm going to do the same thing. 3 clusters of a double crochet. So 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. Okay. I'm going to chain 2. Okay. Another cluster of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm at 3 clusters so far. So I'm going to chain 2. And my last cluster. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then at the end, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And now I'm going to pull my magic circle closed just a little bit. And I'm going to slip stitch into where that chain was. So I'm going to slip stitch in here. So you should have kind of a little square, and then I'm going to pull my tail nice and tight so that it closes everything up. Now there are other ways to neatly finish off your granny squares. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. So I'm simply going to just chain 1 and fasten off, and then I will weave in my ends later. Because each row is going to be a different color for me, so I am going to be fastening off at the end of each row. Okay, and then you have your tail that you'll also need to weave in too. When I first started out, I would stop and weave in every single row before I moved on. You are absolutely welcome to do that. Just a personal preference. I'm just going to wait till the end because I like to just do a few granny squares and then do a weaving party basically where I finish everything off all at the same time. All right, so let's go into our next color, which is our orange. And so what I'm going to do is I don't like to go into the space that I left my tail. I kind of move it around so that I don't have tails at all the same space and it kind of looks zigzaggy. So I'm just going to take the opposite corner here. I'm going to create a slip knot. I'm going to go through my corner, pull my slip knot through, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into that space. Oops. 1, 2, and 3. And if you notice, I'm trying to catch my orange inside there so it makes my weaving in easier later. So I am going to be making a corner, so I need to chain 2, 1, 2. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochet again. So every corner is going to be 2 clusters and a chain 2. So every corner is going to be 2 clusters and a chain 2. And then because we're building up, we're going into our next corner here. So I'm in the in-between, I'm only going to chain 1. So chain 1, and then I'm going to do my cluster of double crochet 1, 2, and 3. It's a corner, so I chain 1, chain 2, cluster of 3, 1, oops, 2, 3. Now I need to go to the next corner, so I'm going to chain 1. Okay. I'm going into that corner here with my cluster, 1, 2, 3. Okay. It's a corner, so chain 2, 1, 2, Now another cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to chain 1 because I'm jumping to the next corner. Here's my cluster. 1, 2, 3. I'm building a corner, so it's chain 2. 1, 2, and a cluster. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to finish off, so I need to chain 1, and I'm going to go into that chain stitch, the chain. So here's that chain, and then I'm going to go into the next, going to do a slip stitch and fasten off. Lot tight. Okay, so if we look at it now, we have pieces for our granny square to be built up. Okay, so you can see how the square is taking shape. So what we're going to do next is whenever there is the center space, we're going to actually going down into the previous row, or the row, I guess it's the previous row. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going around, creating our corners, which is a cluster of 2 with the 2 chain in the middle. Then in the center, I'll show you what we're going to do there. But basically, we're going to be going into this row, this gold row here. Okay. So I'm going in with my teal color here. So I did a slip stitch. Here's my tail. So I'm going to go away from that tail. I'll go over here. I'm going to pull it in. Oops. Okay, so I've got my slip stitch. I'm going to go into this corner here. Pull. I'm going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. Now I work in my cluster for the corner. So 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. Okay. Now it's a corner, so 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and do my cluster. 1, 2, 3. And now here's where we do our chain 1, because we're going to be creating a space. And I'm going to go into this space right here. So I'm going to double crochet 1 time into that space. Okay, so there's the first one. Now I'm going to go into the row previously, and I do my best to find the middle. Sometimes I don't, but it's okay. So I'm going to go into this row here, and I'm going to kind of pull up a good amount of yarn. You can see there's quite a bit of yarn pull there to do my double crochet. I guess you could technically do a triple crochet there. I've just kept it simple and done a double crochet. Okay. Again, I'm going to chain 1 because I'm going into my next area, and this is a corner. So it is a cluster of 3. Chain 2, cluster of 3. Okay. I'm going to now chain 1 because I'm going into my next space. I'm going to double crochet into the space. Now I'm going to double crochet into the previous row, pull up some yarn. Whoa, I lost it. Okay, let's find that again. Double crochet into the previous row, pull up, and finish that double crochet. Okay, and the last one back into the space. There we go. So you're only going into that previous row one time. It's creating kind of the arrow there, the tip of the triangle. All right, so I'm going to chain one. I'm going to go into my corner clusters. Chain two. And a corner cluster. Okay, we're going to chain one. And we're going to go into that. First, we're going to go into the space with a double crochet. Then I'm going to go into the previous row. And back into the space. Make sure your third one is back in the space and not in the previous row. Okay. And then we get our final corner here. So it's a chain one. Get into the corner with two clusters. Now it's a double, two chain in between each cluster. Just a reminder, the corners are 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochet cluster. Okay, and this will be our final. So, all right, so then we single crochet, and this will be our final center piece here. So double crochet into the space, single crochet into the previous row, or double crochet into the previous row, double crochet back into the space. Okay. Then we're going to chain one and finish it off. So I'm going to slip stitch into that first one and fasten off. Okay. So we're building up our granny square. So we've got 2 more rows to go. So it's going to continue to repeat where the corners again are 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And then we're going to chain 1, and in the next one, it is a double crochet into the space, double crochet into the previous row, double crochet into the space, chain 1. So you're just going to be repeating that over and over again into each spaces. So for the next row, I'm going to show you just one row, and then I'm going to speed up and all right, let's get into the next row. Okay, I'm going to go into this corner here with my slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet, 2, and 3. This is a corner. So remember corners, we chain 2, 1, 2, and a cluster of 3, double crochet. Okay. So now we have 2 spaces. We're going to be going into those 2 spaces. So I'm just going to do this row and then I'm going to speed up afterwards. So I'm going double. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to double crochet into the space. So into the space. Now I'm going to double crochet into the previous cluster. And then I'm going to double crochet into the space. Then I'm going to chain 1, double crochet into the space, double crochet into the previous cluster, double crochet into the space. Okay. Then I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm going to be doing my corners. Okay. So then you're just going to repeat that over and over and over till you get to the end. So I'm going to go ahead and speed that up, and I will meet you at the end of this row. Okay, so I've gotten to the end here. I'm going to chain one, slip stitch into that first chain, and fasten. Okay. And then we're going to repeat that for our final row. Okay. So for this one, it's the same process to the end. So we're going to do a corner, starting with a chain 3. Then I'm going to go into these 3 spaces here, and then corner on the end, and you're going to do that all the way around. So it's a chain 3. 1, oops, 2, 3. Your 3 cluster. 2, 3. Chain 2, 1, 2. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then between we chain 1 and we go into our first space. So double crochet into the space, double crochet into the previous cluster, and double crochet into the space, and then chain 1. Okay, so that is just going to repeat and repeat and repeat until we're at the very end of this row. So I will meet you there. Okay, so I'm at the end here. I am going to chain one and slip stitch into that first chain, chain one and fasten off. All right, so that is the end of my little granny square here. Now you'll notice it looks wonky. So what I do is I block it. So I make sure that it's pinned and stretched. It's usually wet it so that it keeps its shape so that all of the pieces kind of have the same shape to them. But so I think I did a pretty good job. I think it's a good representation. I would have liked maybe a little bit darker on the outside, but I only had 5 rows. So I think it looked great. All right. So look out for that book blanket review of A Ship of Bones and Tea.